There we go. Okay, great. This is the Board of Selectmen's meeting for February 11th. First thing on the agenda is continuation of public hearing on the petition of National Grid to excavate the public street and run and maintain underground electric conduits on Hubbard Lane, beginning at a point approximately 410 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Butternut Lane. National Grid will install 75 feet of primary underground from the existing pole box to feed one new transformer to be installed. And we continued this the last meeting for National Grid, and the tree warden brought in a review of some trees that could be impacted by the work.
I don't know if you have a representation from National Grid or not.
I believe this gentleman.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the site. This job just landed on my plate as I was leaving work. I know the sketch and everything.
Okay.
So my understanding was Iris was going to amend the plan that was presented, and that they were going to shorten the run so that it would enter the property probably about 50 feet shy of where they were going to put the transformer, make a right-hand turn, and then the transformer would actually be on private property. So it would avoid those trees that were in question. So it would not go under the second driveway, it would run parallel with the proposed driveway.
Did you see the revised mark? Yes.
I'm sure it's what she had talked about on the site visit.
So it's 45 feet instead of 75 feet.
That's correct.
And this run's not under the actual pavement, but belongs within the town easement.
It runs under a paved driveway, runs parallel with the town pavement.
Okay. Okay. Questions, concerns?
If you're satisfied, then I guess we're satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it avoided the group of trees that were in question before. It's no different than any other feed that feeds that whole subdivision, so.
Okay.
All right, well, if no other questions, then I'll make a motion that we approve the petition of National Grid to excavate the public street and run and maintain underground electric conduits on Hubbard Lane, beginning at point approximately 410 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Butternut Lane, and they will install 75 feet of primary underground for an existing pull box to feed one new transformer to be installed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I
Yes,
didn't-
There's the documents to be signed.
Does you all sign?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
See ya.
See you, Rob.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on the agenda is an update on the Route 110, 117 traffic lights. See right here for you, Carl.
It's all plugged in.
It's not plugged in.
I thought you were going to do my presentation.
I am. You're going to a minimal amount of speaking tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, this is going to take
So this
a
project,
minimum amount of notes.
this project goes back to last year's town meeting, where the town approved $20,000 for engineering and $250,000 for the installation of the hardware. The estimates that we got at the time were from DOT. We have met with 4 engineering firms, at least 3 of which specialize in this type of thing, and we have the low bidder, the apparent low bidder for engineering, and all we sought at the time was for engineering, is $54,000. So there were about 2.5 times over what the projection was for engineering. And the major reason for
The cost being so much higher than what DOT had suggested was, we never took into consideration that DOT would have done a fair amount of the work in-house and would not be out, paying another firm to be off doing this. So that is the reason for $54,000. And we have gotten into further detail with the various engineers relative to input for the lights itself, the actual hardware. And while that base estimate hasn't changed, we have had to add things such as paving, because, we came to realize after talking with the engineers that we don't want to leave the islands where they are. We need to take the islands out and then repave that intersection. We've got, it's about 600 feet by 30 feet at $125 a ton with cold planing, so that's $60,000. Along with the $54,000 for engineering and a 10% contingency, and there was no contingency in the previous line item either. The total project estimate with engineering is $395,000 as opposed to $270,000 from last year. So obviously, we have not proceeded with this in any way because the numbers, significantly overrun what the estimate is. So my recommendation to the Board of Selectmen is that we put an article on this town meeting warrant with the revised numbers to get the input from the town as to whether or not they wish to expend the additional money on that intersection or not. We haven't spent any of the $270,000 up to this point. It's all been researching with engineering firms. I have, as a placeholder on the draft warrant, an article that looks very much like the article from last year on the premise that we would reallocate the $20,000 of engineering into that article. There was approved borrowing, but there was no borrowing, so there's nothing else to take from there. So we would need to do a new appropriation. So, but I didn't want to spend a dime without, getting a feeling from the Board of Selectmen as to what your feeling was. I didn't think it was appropriate to start any engineering work without knowing whether or not the town supported a project of the same scope at a larger price tag. So that's, in a nutshell, that's where we are. And any questions any of you have, I'll be happy to answer, and any I can't, I'll defer to Harold.
Is there a write-up or any documents supporting the estimates or what work needs to be?
Yes, definitely.
A large folder.
We have a lot of backup detail.
We got a lot of backup.
This is a summary of what we received.
Summary.
The only thing a little different with Don on this is that he said 3, all 4 of these firms, this is what we do. We have one here that's a nationwide firm, that's DHB, GCI, and GPI is large, GCI is... CEI. These acronyms kill me. All of these are large firms. The one that's Bayside is New Hampshire and Mass. This is all they do. They don't build buildings. This is what they do. This is their expertise. These are the people I know that do this. If all of them are giving us these figures that you're getting now, and they did, each one of them gave you what you had here. I couldn't believe they were that close on their estimates. This is what it is. I have to believe them. I have no choice but to. And Don and I have met with each one of them.
Each one at the site.
Oh, yes, at the site and multiple times afterwards. And I said, give us your best guess on this thing. And I can't believe they all came through the same.
And what is it that they do, for this money? Like, what exactly?
They do the engineering, they do, oh, Lord. Now you had to ask me that, didn't you?
They need to do soil borings to make sure that it's got the structure under.
Yeah, this is the, we'll take VHB.
No, take
Okay, we'll say, what, Bayside?
Because they're parallel bidders, so.
No, well, they all do the same thing. That's the
fine.
one thing, GPI, Bayside. The bottom? Oh, thanks. You got Bayside there. Each one of them had the same, we made sure they all had the same specifications. All right, where in here is
I
Bayside?
don't mind reviewing this after that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they're all basically the same, Harold, then just reference the one that's easiest to grab, but...
Yeah, well, thank you. I know Bayside's in here. No, CEI is not easy. It's small print. That sucks.
You have no 7 seconds.
Am I really, really? Really?
I never
Yeah, we got a
understand
button.
this technical
We gotta have a
terminology.
button.
Well, that's all right.
It's also a term used in golf.
Give me one that I can read, will you?
Can I ask a question in the meantime?
Ask.
When you were going to so is DOT out of the running to do this?
Well, they're not a bidder.
They're not a bidder.
They were just a resource for us.
You have to remember,
They gave us a professional estimate based on what they were, if they were doing it, that's what they would.
Okay, so at the reason their engineering estimate was lower, you said, because basically their calculations included the in-house work.
Yes.
We don't know how much in-house, we never asked that question, how much they were gonna do in-house. They have their engineering firms, they have this. We don't even know if they had some of the structures in-house. The question
Okay, yeah,
wasn't
something you
asked.
can read.
Okay, yes, thank you. See that? Nice and big. Survey and base mapping, all of them did. Traffic, sign design, sign design, that. Roadway modifications, if there wasn't any needed. Notice of intent, technical engineering and boring, plans and specifications, bidding and construction phase. All of them were the same. We made sure everything was the same for everybody. You know, I'm sorry, I can't read small print. Oh, yeah.
And so basically, they make sure the soil can tolerate the weight or the structure?
No, it has to maintain the wind shear structure. The structure has to be able to meet 80-mile-an-hour winds with gusts of 100. And that will take probably a structure that's going to go in the ground 13 feet, roughly.
And so this is to site the lights?
That's right, the cycle lights. And then those specifications are sent to Mass DOT.
And where are they now? It's hanging?
That's called a strand, all right? And they're hanging. That now will not meet the specifications of today. And what it does is puts us into liability if we were to hang something there. We have to meet the new specs.
Right, so we can't just put new lights up when we have to put new support.
Don and I researched, Don and I asked those questions. Could we use it? Can we use what we have? Can we do anything? And the answer came back from each one of these firms, no.
well, but more importantly, it's what the state dictates.
Oh, very much so.
Well, we have to follow the same
We have
specs.
to follow the same specs as the states. I mean, we just can't put what we want there.
Correct, we can't, that's the problem.
And that goes for anything else we do on 117.
That is correct, too.
So if we change it at all, then it has to be basically brought up to code.
Correct.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And there's no way to, do a rehab of the existing light or?
It's difficult for us to even get parts, replacement parts for it now.
It's very difficult. What we have goes way back.
That's still over 40 years old.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And Don and I asked these questions, and we even looked into changing from, metal to fiberglass to keep the weight down, and actually putting another strand across. Well, the problem with that is, that's fine, but what we're hooking to, the masts we're hooking to, don't meet the specs today. Well, therefore, we're in liability as a town, and I don't think the state will approve it.
And what about the idea of a traffic circle?
That has been looked at many times, Don, any time, has been looked at by the engineering firms we have, all four of this plus Mass Highway. The roundabout doesn't work there. We would have to do a heck of a lot of regrading of everything to make it work. That was asked, and remember we were down there, and it looks like it'll have to be a land taking to do it.
It looked like it'd have to be a land taking to
Old
accommodate
orchards
it.
on one corner, right up to the, right up to the road. You've got a house on the other
Kitty corner,
corner.
right.
You've got wetlands over here. So unless you're gonna kind of, kind of go into the field over here to do their own,
I'd say the lengthiest conversation we had about that was with CEI, when we were down there.
Correct, we had a
Because we
lengthy
did, we
conversation,
specifically asked about it.
and we would end up taking so much of Bolton Orchard's parking lot and so on.
But then it's also whether the state would even allow
But
it.
that's true.
That's
too. All
a
this-
question we didn't ask, but
We
we
didn't,
didn't go that
we didn't
far.
go there on that.
The one up by Route 2
Correct,
in
yes.
70,
Yeah, yes.
that seems not a big area at all.
Yes, that is true, but you've also got to include the approaches. And coming from Still River, that approach would have to be dropped because of the site visibility.
Yeah, but there's also not 23 or 25,000 cars going around.
And that's another factor into it too.
and that one also, if you watch trucks go around there, they just go right up onto the,
They have,
onto the center,
yeah.
because it's too
very
tight.
It's very tight.
It's too small, so.
Those questions were asked each one of these firms when they were out there at place to consider that. And the answer came back, each one, besides DOT, but to all of these with the same answer was no. It wouldn't work. I think we've done pretty good due diligence in asking the questions here. I feel very comfortable with what has come through. Am I comfortable with it? No, but the answer is looking at it.
We're not happy with it, but we're comfortable with it as far as the numbers go.
Yes, especially when asked to give us their best estimates, this is what they came. And I mean, they were within 5,000 or 10,000 of each other.
Yeah, except for BHP.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
if you want...
They're not hungry enough.
No, they're an enormous
No,
company.
they're-
This wasn't a big deal to them.
No, they came here, I happen to know some people there, and they came. Actually, VHB did our engineering from 495 to Stowe, was VHB. And the head of that was John Bouchard, and I know John for a long time.
At your leisure, could I get a copy of that?
Would you like a copy of all of this?
I can make copies for all of you gentlemen,
That would be
all of
fine.
that.
Okay, how much
That would be
how much of this do you want? Do you want just...
Whatever you're
basic?
willing to give me.
I'll just,
Yeah.
I'll,
Public knowledge, we can give you everything. I'd be happy to give it to you tonight. Here we go.
No, when you get around to
I'll
it.
make
don't
Well,
worry.
just let the selectmen have a copy of all four proposals that were submitted.
Yeah, and all the backup.
And the backup.
I'll
sure.
do the,
We got a problem with this one.
I'll fix it.
You won't get them all in
All right,
color.
all right.
You'll get them all in color, but you're good.
Ditto.
So, any other questions from the board, or?
So, I mean, if I remember, the article last year was very explicitly for just fixing the light hardware, and we were not planning on doing any work on the intersection.
Right, there's no redesign of the intersection, but
But there is work that had that, so if the bids had come in sufficient, and met what was approved last year, then we'd be going back to get the 60K to fix the paving there.
Well, we've also discussed the left turn
Right,
lane.
but that's the construction.
And we have the room, I believe we have the room to have that left turn lane. When we do that, we gotta have, the lights have to be different.
Right, what's changed is that the request for the left turn lane to keep the right-hand lane going straight and to optimize it. So we don't have people going around. What's happening now is, yeah, we've got the right-hand turn lane there, the left-hand lane is going straight, but if there's somebody waiting to make a left, then somebody swings out and goes down the right turn lane and keeps on going. So we can avoid that. It would make a safer intersection if we change that.
I'm not arguing that, I'm just,
No, that-
we are changing the scope a little bit from what was
Then,
done last year.
as time went on, we started, this evolved to seeing
Yeah.
what was the safest to do.
Yeah, but if you remember, I mean, we put the article on there because of a number of other issues, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing with that,
Yeah.
but that would make it safer, I'm just.
Oh, no, not at all.
It is.
But that's why the paving is in there, which wasn't in there
Yeah,
before.
Yeah, so we are changing it, scope a little bit, but.
But it's not a redesign. It's not-
No, it's not.
It's not the redesign and rehab of the whole thing that
That's right.
it really needs.
Now, also, some of the change of the payment is mine, not theirs, and I'll admit to that, is you're having cars and trucks stop there all the time. Where the wheel rutting is, and being that, when the pavement does that, is there. It's been there, I don't know, 5 or 6 years into this rehab of that section. If we were able to cold plane it and we were able to reinforce it better, we wouldn't have that. So therefore, looking at longevity, we would be ahead by doing this section. That's all I'm asking is that section
Right, yeah.
for all the cars and so stop.
And we didn't cold plane it last time, we did the hot place.
Yep.
Okay.
I find it hard to believe that something as simplistic as those old lights are irreparable, or that we can't buy some other old lights as backups. And that place is not a traffic accident hotspot under the state's designation. It didn't show up at all, they said, when they were doing the 117 review. I just think to spend close to $400,000 on this is ludicrous. The system does work, and I just can't believe someday one of those lights is going to break and there will be absolutely no way to fix it. I just don't believe that.
It's not the lights, it's the timer and the function of what's there. And I will differ with you there, David, and Chief is here. That is our hotspot where most of our accidents occur and on the stats. Am I correct?
We get a fair amount of accidents
I
now,
believe-
serious accidents.
Yes, I believe you will
It
see
may
that
be
for
for
the accident.
Bolton, but it doesn't show up on any of the state.
It does actually, it does, David.
Well,
No, it meets the criteria for a different type of intersection of lights. It does meet that criteria. The problem was, if what we have now fails, we cannot get the parts. I mean, we would have to search all over to get those antiquated parts. You're going back to the 70s with that thing.
So go buy a couple of those old 70s lights.
Well, that's what
The problem is, David,
those 70 lights.
you can't find the parts, that's the issue. That's the issue, they don't make them anymore.
So find some 80s or 90s old lights. They're going to be, I just think it's crazy to try to
David,
sell the idea
at some
that because
point-
these two old lights,
So when your roof starts leaking, you just go up with some tar and just slap some on and wait until the next leak appears and
Sometimes-
slap some more on?
sometimes, yes.
And there's never a point where you say, well, maybe it's time to put a new roof
I
on?
understand where
I'm
you're
not at
coming
that
from.
point now for
Yeah.
400 grand.
No, I
Wow.
understand where you're coming from, David. I really do, believe me. I'm probably the cheapest person in this room. But the problem is the technology, we can't get the parts. If I can't get the parts for something, that's what the killer is, and that's where we're facing. Is the parts, it's not just the lights you're looking at, that's the minor thing. It's the timers and how it's all hooked up. That's where the problem comes.
And
And
the other problem is that it's what the state will allow us to do. You know, I mean, we just can't do what we want and find some, instead of
Well,
70s parts, we
I'm
find
not
some
doing
80s
for
parts.
doing nothing,
Right.
but having some kind of backup old light to stick up there when,
Which is, actually, it's why my recommendation to the board is that it becomes a new article at town meeting, and then have the debate the night at town meeting is what people want to do.
I mean, trust us, David, I mean, if we didn't need to spend the money, I mean, I don't want to spend the money.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Brown? So what,
No, my first name's Harold.
Harold.
Please.
so what due diligence has been done regarding, like, say, as David said, like having backup spare parts? Is there a traffic light junkyard anywhere that we can,
that's-
or is there firms that rehab lights? Is it?
That's what you've got now.
It's hanging.
And we went out and we have actually is our electrical inspector, and he, for I don't know how many years, his expertise was in construction and with the town or the city of Framingham. This is what he did. And we had a failure. And he went out to the junkyard of traffic lights, and he got this timer, and he put this timer, and he jury-rigged everything, and that's what you're looking at.
But is there, have we done the due diligence? Are there places that sell rebuilt timers, or,
That he did do that.
but can we do that again?
Of course we can. We can do that if you want to stay with what you have, but you understand when the failure comes, it's going to be catastrophic. We're not going to be...
No, I'm saying proactively have somebody look at it, analyze it, replace the parts that are needed, and what would be the cost of that, do you
It
think?
seems to be a full cabinet that's needed to do that. If you were to stay with what you have, I don't know if we can do it. I can ask, and I can research and ask if we were going to stay with that, and then what would happen if there was a failure. My big fear is there's a failure and there's nothing out there.
And I get that. I'm just saying if we had somebody go to the light, analyze it, know, the timer, how old it is, maybe there's rebuilt timers, maybe somebody in China does exactly that, makes these brand new components. I mean, wouldn't it, to do an exhaustive due diligence
Okay, we will do
for that? I mean, for $400,000.
I know, but at what point are we going to be at that situation when there's nothing? We just keep replacing what is antiquated and old. And my biggest fear is that it's going to happen and we're going to have nothing.
Tom, I mean, you come to this like we haven't tried to do this. I mean, this has been an ongoing issue for decades now. And the due diligence has been done. I mean, they just don't do this stuff anymore. And you're not gonna find companies that are providing refurbished stuff. Eventually, to Harold's point, the stuff gets swapped out and new codes come in. We've done this stuff. I mean, we can go out again and look, but we're getting to the point where there's gonna be nothing left to do.
Well, what we can do is...
Let me just say, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off. So, if I could wave a wand and you knew that you ran down all this due diligence and nowhere on the globe is this available, then I would say, well, we have no choice. But if there is a choice and we can keep it going, I mean, there must be a lot of municipalities at $400,000 a light that there must be a market for this type of product and services. And
If we do, I would suggest you put some money up and we buy that and the spare parts behind it. Because we're really run out. It's 40-some or 50-some years old we're looking at. That was-
Let's do one more spin of it.
Well, we could certainly go out and see if we can find, I think a unit. I don't think buying individual parts, but if we can
No,
find a
we
unit.
would buy, if we could buy, and excuse me, Don, I didn't mean to-
I always do, yes. But if we could find a unit, and then, but what I would say is, if that's the direction that we're going to go in, if we find one, we should buy it. Because if we wait until we need it, it might not be there.
I agree.
So,
That's true.
How much are they?
well, that we would have to determine that. We don't know. So, we haven't had to do the hunt for a while, and we know when we had to do the hunt last time, it wasn't easy. And when DOT did come out a year and a half ago, whenever it was, to look specifically at that intersection, and I had a meeting with them afterwards, the engineer made a comment that that was the oldest one he'd ever seen, and he wasn't a rookie engineer, so, but we can certainly do that. So it costs us nothing to keep the article on the warrant, all the way up to town meeting, really, because if we find a better solution leading up to town meeting, we can inform the body, and then the body can vote to pass over the article. So,
Do you have anything to ask, Mary? No?
The only thing I do want to say, and I just received notice today, was Mass DOT's signalization program that they were doing, that they thought that our intersection in Bolton was a good candidate.
Yes.
And they just determined that they found no problems
yeah,
with the timing, which I find kind
Well-
of hard to believe.
with the timing.
That was the
Yes.
timing only.
That was timing only, that wasn't everything that was.
But
It had nothing to do with the
my
light.
thought was,
So-
whatever study that they do to determine timing issues, if we could use it towards whatever the engineering study that would be done for the lights and save some money in that. But it's not happening.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying here is?
If there's any comparable work that's already been done, is what you're saying, right?
You're talking about timing of the lights, the cycling between green and red?
But they did have to do some engineering, I don't know of what type.
Yeah.
But I could certainly,
That really can't be applicable to this.
No, it really isn't. What we're talking about here is a set of lights that would have similar to, I'm saying similar to 495, 117, they have cameras, and if there was no traffic coming at 110, 117 would stay open.
Oh.
It's only when there was traffic there would their lights actually activate.
Yeah, well, I mean, you probably with the equipment that we have now, you couldn't put
No,
that
it's
on.
timer, no.
No, you can't put that stuff on.
We're on automatic, whether there's someone
Yeah,
there or
yeah,
not.
yeah, exactly,
it goes.
exactly.
It's a simple system,
Right.
very simple.
So we will go off and try to do some more due diligence and report back, and in parallel, I'd suggest that we keep the article on the warrant.
Doesn't hurt to keep it on.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you.
Have a good night. I'm escaping, good luck to you.
Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion of the staffing options for the public safety building.
Jake, how are you tonight?
Everybody's doing well?
So Chief Nelson and I have spent quite a bit of time on this. When we discussed this last time, we had two options before you. One was to have two clerks working 19 hours apiece to keep them as non-benefited positions, and the other was to hire another police officer as an administrative role to physically staff the lobby. Chief Nelson and I have had subsequent discussions about this, and realizing that this is a difficult budget year, and try to be as smart as we can with this and utilizing the technology we can use. What I am suggesting to the board, and Chief Nelson concurs with this, without putting words in his mouth, he does.
We're good so far.
We're good so far, exactly right. Bearing in mind, he has the gun and I do not. Is that we go the first year without having a person physically in the lobby. And which is different from someone not getting service, because Monday through Friday during regular business hours, which was our main focus before, we can, with the way the new setup will be, the phone will be in the lobby, so when somebody comes in, they can reach Devens, they can reach a dispatcher at Devens. Depending on what the request is, if someone needs an officer, then the dispatcher at Devens will dispatch an officer to the lobby as quickly as possible. If someone needs something basic, then that call would be redirected to Lorraine's office, as long as, and dispatch will know if she's in. Lorraine will come down, deal with whatever the person needs, go back to her office. Or if the chief is in, Lorraine is not, the same thing would happen. Dispatch at Devens would know. So the services will still be provided. It just doesn't have a person sitting physically in the lobby all the time as we do now. We started keeping a log of what we actually get for lobby activity. Chief Alfano used to infer that we have an awful lot of lobby traffic, and my view of that and his didn't necessarily match. So we actually, in keeping with the log, I would say it's a fair number to say we get 5 visits a day, maybe a little more sometimes, but not a lot of traffic. And we get mail delivery, we get UPS deliveries, we get people looking for directions, we get people, sometimes somebody comes in to have to use the bathroom. Sometimes somebody needs an accident report. We can do that. We'd be able to do that remotely if nobody's there. So try to be smart about this. My suggestion is that we go this route, spend no new money on it, and keep a good, very detailed log of activity over the next year. And the way that I see it, only 3 things can happen. One is if it works well, and we don't have to change anything for FY18. Maybe we have some flies in the ointment, and we have to make some adjustments, or we totally miscalculated it. We slog through the year as best we can, and then next year for the budget, we come back and say, look, we tried it this way, and it just doesn't work. But at least we'll have actual data behind us to be able to present why we feel it didn't work. So, so my recommendation to the board is that we're as smart about it as possible, we optimize the process as possible, but we don't physically add any headcount to this, and we don't spend any new money on it.
I have one question. Yes.
how will the dispatchers know whether you're there or somebody else is there? Is there going to be some kind of electronic check-in every day, or will there?
Pretty much the attendance we have through IMC, we check ourselves in at the beginning of the shift, and they'll have a display on their monitor who's in. And Lorraine's always been in the attendance. If for some reason I go out to a meeting or something and I'm not there, usually Lorraine will be in the building. And Devon's, then Neshoba Valley, that's pretty much how they've been set up with other places that don't have a person sitting there dedicated. It's whatever policy or whichever procedure we tell them or ask them that we want to do. And that's what they do. They'll either call my office, call Lorraine. If they don't get anything, then they go to an officer and have them come in. And we're talking anywhere from 3 to 12 people a day coming in, and it's very routine. You ask a question, directions, bathroom. They've been even logging when the DPW guys come in, they'll either come in and say hi or just go to the bathroom while they've been shoveling the driveways. It's not a lot of foot traffic right now.
I think that makes good sense. I think, let's monitor it and log who's coming in.
In this budget, and
Yeah.
everybody, we're trying to keep
Yeah.
everything low.
Yeah.
If we can just, we can try it, and if it fails miserably, I can come back next.
Or if it turns out to be a non-issue, it's a non-issue. So I think it's the err on the side of caution and not increase the head.
I would really like to start slow on this and see what we're dealing with, and then adjust if we need to.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Questions? Okay. Dave? Yeah.
Yeah, I worry about the admittedly very remote possibility that it's 3 o'clock in the morning and someone is being sued by an abusive boyfriend and runs into the police station.
Well, we actually can deal with that, with the and we've discussed something like that quite a bit, domestic situations. And when you come in, you pick up the phone, you get Devon's immediately. They will unlock a secure area, you go into there, the door locks behind you, and you cannot be accessed by anyone.
It seems to me we should, when this changeover, or before this changeover occurs, try to spread just how this thing is gonna work to everyone in town. I mean, maybe even a mailing or something. Because I think there's a big change to not be able to run into the police station and have someone there. I mean, I think even a person whose car breaks down at 3 in the morning and they go into the police station for help, and they'll get help through the system you've got. But initially, they're gonna be pretty upset
Well,
that there's a person
we
there.
have a lot of ways that we can do that, not the least of which is the new Facebook page, try to get the word out that way, but we have, not everyone's, I'm not on Facebook, so I know everyone's not on Facebook, but
Town website.
the town website, there are a lot of different mechanisms that we can use.
Even
But
as
the
you
police
said,
department is, because I'm getting your feeds.
good deal. But you said 2 o'clock in the morning, there wouldn't be anybody there anyways, because the 9 to 5, if we had a clerk there,
I thought there was always a dispatcher there.
there is, but we're going to Devon, so there won't be a dispatcher.
But that's my point.
So-
That's what Dave's point.
That ship has sailed, David.
Yeah.
But he's
It's
talking
not coming
about,
back,
no,
so-
what
Well, I
Dave's talking
understand,
about.
but we need to do something in reaction to
Right.
that.
Then we do have a procedure, we'll put some signs up so that hopefully when they come in, they can get into that.
Right now, if you
security.
run in at 2 in the morning, there's a dispatcher there.
Yes, there is.
That's
So
what-
there's no sergeant on the 11 to 7?
On 4 days out of the week, on the 4 and 2, there is. I only have 2 sergeants. So on the evening and midnight shift, if I have one more sergeant, I'd have a sergeant on every shift. I've only got 2 sergeants.
Right, but the shifts that we don't have a sergeant, we have an officer in charge, so the senior officer on duty is responsible.
So I'm sorry, please forgive me, but what's the shift, 12 to 8 or 11 to 7?
11:30 to 7:30 in the morning.
So right now, there's no sergeants on the 11:30 to 7:30?
There is one,
One.
so it's 4 days out of the
So
4 and 2 schedule. So he'd be on for 4 days, and then 2 days it'd be a patrolman, the
Drive.
senior patrolman that's in charge of the shift.
So really, the fact pattern of somebody running from their boyfriend needing to get in then would only happen 3 days a week? 'Cause
Well, that person's not gonna be in the station anyways.
No, they'd be a patrolman.
I see, I see. So
They're not sitting there just,
Okay.
you know, unless they're doing a report or something.
I see.
They
On
could
the
be.
off shifts, there's a sergeant and a patrolman on the road.
Cruising around.
Yes.
They'll be the 2 officers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, David's point is well taken. Hopefully we'll over-communicate it, but if we don't over-communicate it, at least we'll communicate it efficiently.
Yeah, and some good, and some signs in the,
Oh, yes.
certainly in the lobby will go a long way to,
And in this fiscal era, the atmosphere.
I would
Call for now.
It is exactly why I pulled it from the last agenda, because I wanted to discuss this in more detail before we brought it to you.
And I think as we get close to the actual cutover, there'll be a lot of communication in
There will.
general
There will.
about all this, including your concerns.
Including the media, I'm sure.
Most of the domestic violence that comes in through the 911, would you say, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's usually the call. You need to get ahead.
Not driving to the station in the middle of the night?
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly right. But if, it is possible someone's being pursued and they're looking for a safe place, and we're prepared to deal with that.
Yes, yeah, we have a plan.
Mr. Chairman, what's the situation in the lobby now?
We have a dispatcher 24 hours a day.
At the moment, we have an on-site dispatcher 24 hours a day in the
We always
Public
have.
Safety Center?
We always have.
So when's the cutover to Devon's?
We're working on it. It'll be before June 30th.
Sounds good.
Could I get a vote to that effect, if you don't mind?
I'll make a motion that for the current and the next fiscal year, that we do not provide additional staffing of clerks in the lobby of the Public Safety Building, but you'll keep records and logs, and we'll look at it a year from now.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So Chief Nelson will update his budget and removed, we had a placeholder for wages in there for the 2 clerks. So we went, at the lower cost option in as a placeholder, we'll remove that
We'll
from
take that out.
the budget.
Okay.
Very good, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, and let's see here, item 4 on the agenda is being deferred.
Deferred to the next meeting.
To the next meeting. Waiting for some feedback from Conservation Commission on that. So the next is the always anticipated town administrator's report on Minuteman.
Short report, we didn't have the special town meeting. We got snowed out, and the new snow date is September 20, I'm sorry, February 22nd.
Ed Quillen is going like this.
He already is, believe me. With the latest information that we have, we are now 8 of 8 for towns that have voted to approve the new regional agreement, and 2 towns, the towns of Sudbury and Carlisle, have voted to withdraw from the district. Sudbury was not a surprise. It would have been a shock if they didn't vote to withdraw. Carlisle was a moderate surprise, but not a major one. So,
About how many students?
Sudbury has, I think, probably in the low 20s, and Carlisle has very few. I would think around 7 or so.
I thought it was even less than that.
It could be.
I used to talk with the Carlisle rep when I was going to those Minuteman school meetings, and they were very small, 3 or 4.
My expectation is that Wayland will probably vote to withdraw. Not sure about any other communities. Boxborough may or may not, but I don't personally believe that the other ones will. I would wager up to, I don't know, $3 on that.
So the tally on the hard, like, what's the hard number on district withdrawals right now?
2 towns have withdrawn.
They have voted.
They voted to
withdraw. They don't withdraw for a few years yet, because their kids have to cycle through. I mean, no new students may be going, but anyone in there will still be there.
And once this new regional agreement's done, then the towns have to vote to allow them to withdraw, correct?
Well, yes, but the handshake deal is, if they vote to withdraw now, then they'll be allowed out.
Oh, okay.
If they approve the new agreement and vote to go out, then they'll be
At the same
allowed out.
time,
So-
right.
They could
So
reject the agreement.
so the first thing that has to happen is the remaining 8 towns have to approve the new agreement.
Right.
And then the towns that have indicated they want to withdraw will be allowed to,
Right.
want to go.
And the worst case scenario where that we have now, that's 7 withdrawn?
There will be 7 withdrawn, and looking out to the building project, if all 7 did withdraw, we were left with 9 towns, then based on the figures provided by Minuteman, the impact to the median tax bill with all 16 towns still in the district for both is $65.21 a year. And if all 7 were to withdraw, and we had 9 communities, the impact is $66.20 a year on the median tax bill, so it'd be a 99-cent difference.
Right, because it's like 55 kids out of
54,
seven towns, so
Yeah,
it's not
but
a huge
And that's assuming no backfill of student population from another district, from another town.
And that's also not counting in any capital reimbursement that we get from towns that would be sending there.
That's
I mean,
right.
there's nothing that prevents those towns from continuing to send their kids there.
Some of them actually did want to withdraw, but still send the kids. And
So let me give up my vote, but still pay all the bills. I don't see that.
I can't.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand the rationale.
I've asked at many meetings what the logic is for that, and I get a lot of mumbling and not a lot of coherent sentences. So there's that, and
I
then,
think we have one question on that.
Oh, I just want to make sure I understand. So Sudbury and Carlisle voted to withdraw, but at the same time, they're 2 of the 8 that have approved the new regional agreement.
Yes.
Thank you.
that's
They
right.
have to approve the, yeah, if
That's fine.
if
You answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yep.
So that's it for Minuteman. Again, I think 3 other communities also canceled the same day we did, and have rescheduled, I believe, for the same day we did. Update on the Route 117 committee report. I did forward the report of the study group on to DOT. Mr. Laurie responded pretty quickly, said that it looked like, good progress was being made in the town, that although they're very busy this time of year, he will have staff people review the report and provide, comments as requested, and his estimate for response is 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm assuming 3 weeks, about 3 weeks before we hear anything back. And I referenced this earlier, but the first draft of the warrant, the annual town meeting warrant, is done. It's been submitted to town council for review. It currently has 30 articles on it, which may go to 31 next week. Whether or not, in 2 weeks, depending on whether or not the Board of Health decides to recommend hiring that group that was in here to do mosquito testing but not spraying. That decision has not been made yet, but I've been told that they may be voting on that. They'll have a meeting on it, a public meeting on it, and then discuss that. So,
And that would come before us again, right?
no, that would not, no, the Board of Health can place that on the warrant. And then it's up to town meeting to vote on whether or not to approve it.
And is this
It would come
related
to us
to
as
the
far
group?
as giving our recommendations on it, but not,
Right. The board will weigh in with their recommendation, just as advisory will, but the Board of Selectmen don't vote on whether or not it goes on to the warrant.
Is this related in any way to the group that was here a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, that's the same thing.
Same
That would
folks.
be that group that they're recommending. Because they seem to be, from what they can tell and what I can tell, pretty much a sole source provider. It's not something that you would go out to bid for. Because it's really that group, and that's the only group that's not part of it, that's not, the only other one that's similar is that regional group that was in, it must have been 3 years ago now, I think, when we considered that.
several.
You mean mosquito control projects?
The mosquito, yes.
Yeah.
So knowing that we have 30-ish articles, and some of them may well result in a fair amount of discussion, and I'm not even thinking about the budget right now, I'm thinking non-budget. On the other articles that are not the budget, we could easily go into 2 nights, I think, so we've already made sure that we've got the auditorium for the next night, if we need it.
Okay.
So unless you have any other questions, that's my report for this evening.
Let's see, so selecting business, so the first thing is on the agenda, just, this was mentioned earlier, we used our code red, which is our replacement system for reverse 911. We used that Monday to send out, notify everybody that the meeting was postponed. I think in general, it worked. I mean, I know I got a call, hopefully most people did. Just a couple comments on it. If you go, as you go through the website into Code Red, you can register cell phones,
You get text
you
messages.
can get text messages,
Emails.
emails. So if you don't generally monitor your home phone, but would have your cell phone with you or something, you may want to consider doing that. You can opt out from the notification. I wouldn't recommend people do that because, I mean, we've had the system for several years. I think this is the first time we've had to use it.
It is the first time we've had to use it. We've had it for 2 years.
Yeah. So it's not used frequently, but it's used when an important message really has to get out in a very timely fashion.
Yeah, there are communities that use it for everything. And I personally think that's a mistake because I think you get desensitized to it. I think it should be used for either an emergency or late-breaking news that we need to get out to the people right away.
Which was the case on Monday. If you have trouble with it, I suspect if you come into town hall, the friendly staff or Linda.
No, it's on the website that they can come in and I'll help them with it or call me. Yep.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, it's real easy. You click on the link and it just asks you to put in whatever you want. Because that day, my cell phone rang, my wife's cell phone rang, house phone rang, my office line rang.
All at once.
And we all got
Same
texts.
thing happened upstairs.
I mean, it scared the hell out of me. But it worked, and it was all exactly at the same time. It was beautiful. It was really good.
But I would recommend people go and register additional numbers, just to make sure that you do get the notifications that we use very sparingly, luckily. Okay, that was just my editorial comment on that. Let's see, next on the agenda is execute the warrant for the presidential primary on March 1st, 2016.
Yes.
Make a motion to execute.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Who's Bolton gonna go for? Where who Bolton will go for in the primaries?
Can say that pretty much anywhere these days. It's amazing.
I would bet on Bernie for the Democrats in Bolton. And I think it would be a toss-up between Rubio and Bush with Republicans.
You got your pollsters out?
Pardon?
You got your pollsters out?
No, I'm just guessing from my interaction with my fellow residents.
I'm a political junkie and I can't figure some of this stuff out.
And next on the agenda is to call the caucus for March 7th, and that will be at the library, and so that's Monday, March 7th at 7:30.
Make a motion to call the caucus for March 7th, 2016 at the public library.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now that we have a caucus called, I am intending on running again, so give people fair warning on that.
Take your time. On your decision. The ink's not dry and you're jumping in it.
I'm not sure I would have been allowed to leave if
Simultaneous signing and calling.
Okay, and next on the agenda is to review minutes. And we have minutes from, let's see, regular sessions for November 19th and December 3rd of 2015, and January 14th of 2016.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we do not have an executive session tonight?
We are, we're having one at the next meeting, I swear.
So since we've run out of things to officially...
Make a motion to adjourn.
Well, no, actually, you don't even need the, they don't need to
For what?
vote on this.
For what?
The Catini's application came back
Okay.
because one of the forms was written versus typed, so I've typed it up. You've already actually voted on it, so I just need you to sign the form.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't require.
It doesn't require a vote. Actually, no, the three of you could sign.
Good night, all.
David?
Hi, David. Yes. Yep.
The Form 43, was it?
143, it was written and typed out.
I'm sorry, did you adjourn yet? I'm not sure.
I made a motion too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, now you have definitely,
Yeah.